First contact. The message came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing atmospheric data at the Arecibo Observatory when the signal cut through the usual cosmic background noise like a knife. It wasn't the typical burst of random energy that occasionally excited astronomers before disappointing them. This was different, structured, intentional. "Director Matthews," Sarah called out, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "You need to see this." The signal resolved into a clear transmission. A fleet of ships was approaching Earth's orbit, carrying refugees who called themselves the Lumini. Their message was simple: "Please help us. We have nowhere else to go." Within hours, the world's space agencies confirmed the presence of 12 crystalline vessels, each nearly transparent and refracting sunlight in impossible ways. They moved with an ethereal grace that defied known physics, leaving trails of luminescent particles in their wake. The first images from high-powered telescopes showed beings that seemed more like living aurora borealis than solid matter. The Lumini were essentially organized patterns of light and energy, held together by forces that Earth's scientists couldn't yet comprehend. Their bodies rippled with colors that might have been beautiful if not for the obvious signs of deterioration in their containment fields. When the UN Security Council convened an emergency session, Dr. Chen found herself thrust into the role of humanity's scientific liaison to the aliens. The Lumini spokesperson, who called itself Aurora, projected itself into the chamber as a shimmering hologram. "We were once a proud civilization," Aurora explained, its voice a harmonic blend of tones that made the air itself vibrate. "We inhabited a world of crystal and light, where thought and energy were one. But the Galactic Confederation deemed us too weak to join their ranks. They saw our physical form as a liability, our pacifistic nature as a flaw." The hologram flickered, showing images of their homeworld's destruction. "When we refused to alter our fundamental nature through genetic engineering, they left us to the mercy of space pirates and resource raiders. Our world was stripped of its crystal cores, leaving us homeless. For generations, we've wandered, but our containment vessels are failing. Earth is our last hope." The Security Council chamber erupted in debate. Some nations immediately advocated for helping these peaceful refugees. Others warned of the burden of supporting an alien species, the potential risks of drawing the Confederation's attention, or the possibility that this was all an elaborate deception. Sarah studied the data streaming in from the Lumini ships. Their technology was incredible. They had mastered the manipulation of light and energy in ways that could revolutionize human science. But more than that, she saw their deteriorating condition. Without help, these beings would literally fade away into background radiation. "We can't turn them away," she argued before the council. "Look at human history. How many times have we regretted refusing to help refugees? How many times has fear prevented us from doing what's right? These beings chose to come to us, not to the physically stronger species of the Confederation, but to humanity. Maybe they saw something in us that others missed." The debate raged for days as the Lumini waited in orbit, their ships growing dimmer by the hour. Finally, a decision was reached. Earth would accept the Lumini refugees, but with conditions. They would share their technology and knowledge, helping humanity advance while humanity helped them survive. As Sarah worked with her team to design specialized habitats that could sustain the Lumini's unique form of existence, she couldn't help but wonder if this was humanity's first step onto a much larger stage. The Confederation had rejected the Lumini for their perceived weakness, but perhaps there was strength in seeing value where others saw only liability. The first Lumini began descending to Earth a week later, their crystalline vessels catching the dawn light and creating spectacular atmospheric displays. As they emerged into their temporary habitats, their bodies pulsing with renewed energy, Sarah realized that this was just the beginning. Humanity had taken its first real step into galactic society, not through conquest or technological achievement, but through compassion. What no one yet realized was that this decision would change not just Earth, but the entire galaxy's understanding of what truly constitutes strength. The human touch. Morning light streamed through the crystalline dome of Habitat 1, creating prismatic patterns across Dr. Chen's desk. The Lumini inside moved like schools of luminescent fish, their bodies casting ever-changing shadows on the walls. 3 months had passed since their arrival, and Earth was still adjusting to its new reality. Sarah watched as Aurora, now her primary research partner, demonstrated their latest breakthrough. The Lumini's form rippled and condensed, focusing into a tight beam of coherent light before expanding back to its natural state. "The containment field modifications you suggested are working," Aurora said, its voice carrying the musical quality that all Lumini shared. "We can now maintain our form with 30% less energy consumption." But before Sarah could respond, alarms blared through the facility. Security feeds showed a crowd gathering outside the perimeter fence, carrying signs with slogans like "Humans First" and "No Alien Parasites." It wasn't the first protest, and it wouldn't be the last. General Marcus Hayes, head of the Joint Alien Response Task Force, strode into the lab. His expression was grim. "Dr. Chen, we've got problems. The Sovereignty Party is pushing a bill through Congress to cut funding for the Lumini habitats. They're claiming the energy requirements are straining the power grid." Sarah pulled up the facility's consumption data. "That's ridiculous. The Lumini's own energy manipulation technology has actually improved our grid efficiency by 12% since they arrived. The entire eastern seaboard is experiencing fewer brownouts than ever." "You know that, and I know that," Hayes said, "but fear makes for better headlines than facts." Aurora shifted, its light dimming slightly. "Perhaps we should leave. We never intended to cause conflict among your people." "No," Sarah said firmly. "We're not giving up. General, remember what the Lumini showed us about their quantum communication technology. I think it's time we demonstrated exactly what humanity gains from this partnership." Over the next weeks, Sarah and her team worked tirelessly with the Lumini to prepare for a public demonstration. They set up a series of experiments showcasing how the aliens' mastery of light and energy could revolutionize everything from communications to clean energy production. The breakthrough came when young Tesla Rahman, one of Sarah's graduate students, noticed something extraordinary. The Lumini's natural ability to manipulate quantum states didn't just allow for faster communication, it could potentially revolutionize computing itself. "Look at this," Tesla said, pointing to a complex data visualization. "When Aurora interfaces with our quantum prototype, the coherence time increases by orders of magnitude. They're not just processing information, they're actually stabilizing quantum states through their mere presence." The implications were staggering. Quantum computers that would have required massive cooling facilities could now operate at room temperature. Problems that would have taken years to solve could be tackled in minutes. When the day of the public demonstration arrived, the protesters were still there, but now they were outnumbered by curious onlookers and media representatives. Sarah stood at the podium, Aurora floating beside her like a benevolent spirit. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we've called you here today not just to show you what the Lumini can do, but what humanity and the Lumini can accomplish together." She nodded to Aurora, who expanded into a dazzling display of light. The demonstration was flawless. They showed how Lumini technology could make internet speeds 1,000 times faster, how their energy manipulation could make solar panels 5 times more efficient, and how their quantum interfaces could revolutionize everything from medical imaging to space travel. But the most powerful moment came when Aurora shared their stories. Through holographic displays, humans watched the history of the Lumini unfold, their achievements, their losses, their hopes. The images touched something deep in the human psyche, reminding them of their own struggles and triumphs. Public opinion began to shift. The Sovereignty Party's bill died in committee. More universities and research facilities began requesting Lumini partnerships. What had started as a refugee crisis was transforming into one of the most significant technological and cultural exchanges in human history. Yet even as humanity and the Lumini grew closer, neither species realized they were being watched. In the depths of space, Confederation sensors had detected the quantum signatures of Lumini technology on Earth. The galaxy's strongest powers were about to turn their attention to this backwater planet that dared to shelter those they had cast aside. And in the coming storm, both humanity and the Lumini would discover that true strength takes forms that neither had imagined. Hidden strengths. The accident happened on a Thursday. Tesla Raman was running a routine quantum coherence test with a group of Lumini researchers when something went wrong. The containment field fluctuated, and for a brief moment, the barriers between human consciousness and Lumini energy patterns dissolved. Tesla's scream brought Dr. Chen running to the lab. She found the young scientist floating 3 feet off the ground, her body surrounded by a corona of shifting light. The Lumini researchers pulsed in patterns Sarah had never seen before, their usually gentle glow now brilliant enough to light up the entire chamber. "Tesla," Sarah called out. "Are you all right?" When Tesla opened her eyes, they shimmered with the same inner light as the Lumini. "I can see everything, Dr. Chen. The quantum fields, the flow of energy through matter, the patterns of light between atoms. It's beautiful." Aurora rushed into the lab, its form expanding with alarm. "This shouldn't be possible. Our species are too different. Unless..." The Lumini's light dimmed in what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of deep thought. "Unless we were wrong about ourselves all along." Over the next few days, as Tesla's condition stabilized, they made an extraordinary discovery. The accident hadn't just affected her consciousness. It had fundamentally altered the way her nervous system interacted with electromagnetic fields. She could now perceive and manipulate energy in ways previously only possible for the Lumini. More surprisingly, the Lumini researchers involved in the accident found themselves able to maintain more stable physical forms, drawing on the ordered patterns of human consciousness to anchor their energy states. It was as if each species had something the other needed, some complementary quality that made both stronger together. "Don't you see?" Tesla said during one of their research sessions, her eyes still gleaming with inner light. The Confederation thought the Lumini were weak because they couldn't maintain solid form, couldn't fight in traditional ways. But they were looking at it all wrong. The Lumini aren't incomplete beings. They're pure energy given consciousness. And humans were consciousness given solid form. Sarah watched as Tesla demonstrated her new abilities, creating complex patterns of light and energy that interfaced seamlessly with both Lumini technology and human computers. But why hasn't this happened before? The Lumini must have encountered other species during their wanderings. Aurora pulsed thoughtfully. Perhaps it required a species that would accept us as we are, rather than trying to change us. Your people's compassion opened possibilities that force never could. The implications were staggering. If they could replicate and control the merger of human and Lumini abilities, it would revolutionize not just technology, but the very nature of human experience. The potential applications were endless: perfect virtual reality, direct neural interfaces, energy manipulation on a scale that would make current technology look primitive. But as they delved deeper into these possibilities, warning signals came from Earth's long-range sensors. Multiple ships were approaching from the direction of Confederation space, large ones, with energy signatures that dwarfed anything humanity had ever encountered. General Hayes called an emergency meeting. "We've intercepted some of their communications," he said, his face grave. "They're not happy about the quantum signatures they're detecting from Earth. They're claiming we're harboring dangerous technology, in violation of galactic laws they never bothered to tell us about." Sarah looked at Tesla, who was unconsciously generating small patterns of light around her hands as she processed the information. Then at Aurora, whose form had taken on the more focused configuration they now recognized as determination. "Let them come," Tesla said quietly. "They thought the Lumini were weak because they could only manipulate energy. They think humans are weak because we're young and physically unimpressive compared to their enhanced forms. But together, she raised her hand, and Aurora flowed around it like living light, their energies merging in a display that lit up the room. Together, Aurora continued, "We are neither weak nor strong in the ways they understand. We are something entirely new." Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. The Confederation was coming, bringing with them all the physical and technological might that had let them dominate the galaxy. But they were about to encounter something they had never seen before, the combined potential of humanity's innovative spirit and the Lumini's mastery of energy. And as she watched Tesla and Aurora working in perfect sync, Sarah realized that the very quality the Confederation had dismissed as weakness, the Lumini's fluid, adaptable nature, might prove to be the key to humanity's first major victory in galactic politics. The question was, could they prepare enough humans and Lumini for this merger of abilities before the Confederation arrived? And even if they could, would it be enough to face down the combined might of the galaxy's strongest military powers? Galactic ripples. The Confederation fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their massive ships blocking out distant stars. Earth's early warning systems counted 50 vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their hull configurations matched nothing in the Lumini's database. These were new designs, created specifically for warfare. In the months since detecting their approach, Earth had been preparing, but not in the ways the Confederation might have expected. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility hastily converted from a military bunker, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in a room full of light. Around her, 200 humans and Lumini moved in perfect synchronization, their merged energy signatures creating patterns that made the air itself shimmer. "Status report," she called out to Tesla, who floated near the ceiling, her body now permanently suffused with a subtle glow. "Integration rates are holding steady at 94%, Tesla replied, her voice carrying harmonic overtones that marked her as one of the first successful human Lumini syntheses. "The neural networks are adapting faster than we predicted. We're ready." General Hayes watched from an observation deck, his tactical mind still struggling to adjust to this new form of warfare. "They're going to expect us to either surrender or try to fight them conventionally," he said. "They've never seen anything like what we've developed here." Sarah nodded. The plan they'd developed was either brilliant or insane, possibly both. But it was the only chance they had. The first transmission from the Confederation fleet was predictably arrogant. High Commander Draxus of the Confederation forces appeared on screens worldwide, his cybernetically enhanced form looming large. "Primitive species of Earth," he began, "you have illegally harbored fugitive entities and accessed restricted technologies. Surrender the Lumini immediately and submit to technological quarantine, or face immediate planetary sterilization." They had expected this. Sarah stepped forward to deliver humanity's response, Aurora flowing around her like a cloak of living light. "High Commander," she said, letting some of Aurora's harmonics blend with her voice, "we invite you to send a delegation to Earth for diplomatic discussions. Let us show you what we've discovered." Draxus's cybernetic eyes narrowed. "You dare to negotiate? Your species hasn't even achieved reliable interplanetary travel. What could you possibly show us?" "The future," Sarah replied simply. The Confederation, predictably, chose to demonstrate their power first. 3 of their smaller ships moved into attack position, targeting automated defense satellites that Earth had positioned throughout the solar system. But as their weapons powered up, something extraordinary happened. The space around their ships began to ripple with familiar patterns of light. Hundreds of Lumini, their forms now stabilized by their human partners, emerged from carefully hidden positions. Before the Confederation crews could react, the human Lumini pairs began their work. They didn't attack, not directly. Instead, they began to manipulate the quantum fields around the Confederation ships in ways that should have been impossible. Weapon systems failed to fire. Communications arrays went dark. The ship's own energy fields began to fluctuate wildly as the human Lumini pairs adjusted the fundamental forces around them with microscopic precision. Impossible. Draxus's voice crackled through failing communication channels. The Lumini are non-corporeal weaklings. They cannot maintain coherence well enough to affect our technology. The Lumini were never weak, Sarah responded, as Aurora's light pulsed around her. They simply needed partners who could help them focus their abilities. And humans, we needed partners who could show us the true nature of energy and matter. Apart, each of our species had limitations. Together, we transcend them. To demonstrate, Sarah raised her hand. Aurora's energy flowed through her nervous system, and together they reached out to touch the quantum fields that permeated space itself. Around Earth, hundreds of other human Lumini pairs did the same. The effect was instantaneous and overwhelming. Every piece of Confederation technology within range simply stopped, not through violence or destruction, but through the precise manipulation of energy at its most fundamental level. Draxus's image flickered as his own ship's systems began to fail. This is unprecedented. Your species, both of your species, you were supposed to be weak. Strength takes many forms, High Commander, Sarah replied, feeling Aurora's agreement resonating through their shared consciousness. The Confederation measures it only in destructive potential. We've learned to measure it in other ways. In adaptation, in cooperation, in the willingness to see value where others see only weakness. As if to punctuate her words, more human Lumini pairs emerged from hiding, surrounding the Confederation fleet in a display of light and energy that was as beautiful as it was powerful. They didn't need weapons or shields. Their mere presence was enough to render the Confederation's mighty warships helpless. Now, Sarah continued, shall we discuss diplomacy? The silence that followed was broken only by the harmonic hum of hundreds of human and Lumini consciousnesses working in perfect synchronization, redefining the very nature of power in the galaxy. Rising together. 3 years after the Confederation fleet's failed attempt to subjugate Earth, the Grand Chamber of the new Galactic Council looked very different from its predecessor. Gone were the stark hierarchical tiers that had once separated species by their perceived strength. Instead, the chamber was arranged in interwoven circles with representatives from all species, including many formerly excluded ones, given equal voice. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, Aurora's light mingling with her own natural bioluminescence, a lasting effect of their permanent synthesis. Around them, other human Lumini pairs helped maintain the quantum field that allowed instantaneous translation and communication between all species present. The old Confederation believed that strength could only be measured in destructive potential. Sarah began, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself resonate. They created a hierarchy based on physical might and military power. In doing so, they missed countless opportunities for growth and advancement. She gestured, and the chamber filled with holographic displays, showing the achievements of the past 3 years. Clean energy technologies that had transformed polluted worlds into garden paradises. Medical breakthroughs that had cured diseases thought incurable. Faster-than-light travel systems that used a fraction of the energy of older methods. When humanity chose to shelter the Lumini, she continued, we didn't do it because we calculated the potential benefits. We did it because it was right. But in choosing compassion over fear, we stumbled upon a fundamental truth about the universe itself. True strength lies not in domination, but in synthesis. Tesla Raman, now Earth's chief scientific advisor, stepped forward. Her body glowed with internal light as she demonstrated the latest breakthrough. A method of rehabilitating dead worlds using combined human Lumini energy manipulation techniques. The synthesis between our species wasn't just about gaining new abilities, Tesla explained. It was about understanding that what we perceive as weaknesses often contain hidden strengths. The Lumini's non-corporeal nature, once seen as a liability, allows them to perceive and manipulate energy in ways solid beings never could. Humanity's limited lifespan, once considered a disadvantage, drives us to innovate and adapt at unprecedented rates. From his position in the chamber, former High Commander Draxus, now simply Representative Draxus of the Reformed Confederation Worlds, shifted uncomfortably. The cybernetic enhancements that had once marked him as powerful now seemed clumsy compared to the elegant synthesis of biology and energy demonstrated by the human Lumini pairs. "We were wrong," he admitted, his voice carrying the weight of genuine remorse. "We thought we were crafting a strong galaxy through survival of the fittest. Instead, we were stagnating, crushing the very diversity that could have helped us evolve." Around the chamber, other representatives shared their own stories of transformation. Species that had once been rejected as too weak or too strange were now contributing unique perspectives and abilities to galactic civilization. The crystalline harmonics of the Outer Rim, the quantum dancers of the core worlds, even the enigmatic cloud mines of the Helios cluster, all had found their place in this new galactic order. Aurora expanded their form, creating a display that encompassed the entire chamber. "When we first fled to Earth, we thought we were seeking merely survival. Instead, we found revolution, not through violence or domination, but through the simple willingness to see value in difference." Sarah felt the familiar warmth of their shared consciousness as she added, "The universe is vast and full of wonders we have yet to imagine. No single species, no single way of being, can hope to comprehend it all. But together." She let the thought hang in the air as she and Aurora demonstrated their synthesis, their merged form creating patterns of light and energy that made even the most jaded representatives gasp in wonder. Around the chamber, other human Lumini pairs joined in, weaving a living tapestry of light and consciousness that represented the new face of galactic civilization. "This is just the beginning," Sarah concluded. "There are more species out there, ones the old Confederation rejected or never even considered. More possibilities for synthesis, for growth, for evolution. The question is no longer, are you strong enough to join us? But rather, what unique perspective can you bring to our shared future?" As the chamber erupted in approval, Sarah felt Aurora's consciousness brush against her own, sharing a private moment of reflection. They had come so far from that desperate day when 12 crystalline ships appeared in Earth's orbit, carrying refugees that the galaxy had deemed too weak to matter. The galaxy had called the Lumini weak because they couldn't maintain solid form. They had called humanity weak because of their short lives and limited technology. But in the end, it was these very limitations that had driven both species to reach out, to adapt, to find strength in unity rather than isolation. And as representatives from 100 worlds mingled in the chamber, sharing ideas and forming new alliances, Sarah knew that this was the true meaning of strength, not the power to stand alone, but the wisdom to stand together. In the space above the chamber, Earth and the restored Lumini homeworld orbited a shared star, their combined light a beacon to all species who sought not just to survive, but to evolve. Together, they had written a new chapter in the story of life in the galaxy, proving that sometimes the greatest strength lies in the willingness to be vulnerable, to change, and to grow.